Would you agree that a man who is extremely attractive and a woman who is extremely attractive, when they get together, it's just going to be problems? Because the man might be insecure and jealous, and the woman might be the same.
It can work really well if they have no kind of concerns and they're happy to lock off all alternatives. We always match better with people who are equal to us. Always. Looks-wise, finances, right? Our equal. We always match better, and it's called the matching hypothesis. You actually last longer. The problem is these people tend to have too many alternatives. When problems arise, there's so many alternatives, and it doesn't even have to be other men or other women. It can be like, I'm going to go on holiday with my friends. Whereas when you meet people with very little options, you take the average person, when you go back to Leeds and you see couples that have been together for 20, 30 years since you were in high school and they're still together. But if you look at their options, it's less. They're actually more satisfied. So the less options you have, the more invested and satisfied you are in your relationship. So it's actually, unfortunately, more options doesn't mean more happiness.
Yeah, because I think if you have more options, you have more desire. And if you don't fulfill those desires, then you're going to be unhappy.
Yeah, and also when you have more options, you have less tolerance. You're thinking, you can't talk to me like that. I've got so many other guys. Or you're thinking, she can't deny me. I've got so many other options. And so it's that you have low tolerance for flawed behavior. Yeah.
What would you describe as being a top 1% female?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because I hear it all the time, men. But
well, I do think beauty and all these things, you can't ignore that. Like, obviously, she has to be aesthetically, she has to be pleasing. But I just think that if she is the most beautiful girl in the world, but she is available and accessible to lots of men, and she's disloyal to you, she loses her value. Because she makes you look like an idiot and she makes herself look accessible. So without that loyalty factor, and loyalty doesn't just mean she's not sleeping with other men. Loyalty also means she's not exposing herself to other men. Because before, you'd have to work to see a girl naked. Really, really have to work for it. If she's allowing access to the rest of the society to see that, I do think it takes away her mystery. So a 1% woman would have to make her man look like somebody that other men are jealous of. And now, if other men can still see your girlfriend naked, then less jealous of you. They're just less jealous of you. So
why are they doing that then?
Because, like I said, they get rewarded for it. They're
more
likely to, but they're going to meet a 1% man.
No, but let's say, for example, that they're already in a relationship with a good guy. Why did they continue to do it?
I would say if you're in a relationship with a good guy and being satisfied are two different things. I think when you're with a good guy and he treats you well and he's really kind to you, but if you're a chaotic woman and you crave chaos, what will happen is you always need validation from other men. You always need reminding that you can be with other men whenever you need it. But if you're a woman who's so happy to stop all of that, just to be with one man, you'll stop posting. If your woman is still posting, there's a part of her that doesn't feel totally satisfied with the love you give her. And it's not got nothing to do with you. It might be to do with her own insecurities before she entered the relationship. And they haven't been resolved yet.
Well, I think there's definitely some couples or individuals who just crave drama.
Yeah.
I've been with some women who, they just want to pick fights. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, why?
But do you think that men tend to, and women, do you think people attach to people who give them more drama?
I think the excitement makes things more interesting.
Yeah.
It keeps each other on their toes.
Yeah. And they
like,
get preoccupied.
I'm sure if me being the way I am now definitely keeps my partner on her toes. I'm not being like disrespectful or doing anything bad, but there's an element of mystery.
Right.
So because I live by myself,
yeah,
she's always thinking, maybe what is he doing?
Yeah.
And I say, I'm going out for dinner. And then she'll be like, who's going out to dinner?
Do you believe in monogamy? Do you believe in being faithful? Or do you think it's difficult in this day and age?
I do. Yeah. I think it probably is one of the main things which is going to allow for a successful relationship to flourish. I just think it's really, really hard.
And what would it require for you to be monogamous?
I just have to be very disciplined.
Okay.
I think it's largely just down to discipline. Because if you are like top 1% man, you're always going to have those options until maybe you get too old.
Yeah.
And you're always going to have the urges.
Yeah.
Men have urges, sexual desires with different women. That's just the way it is.
And
so those men who are in successful relationships and they don't cheat, it's mostly down to the fact that they're extremely disciplined and they can control their emotions.
And do you think that makes him more high value than a man that is?
Technically on paper, way more high value.
So do you agree
that is the ultimate.
That is but the thing is, the ultimate source of high value is self-control. If you can exercise self-control, you start to respect yourself more. Every time, think of the times where you could have cheated and you said no, you feel like a superhero. You're like, oh my God, I rejected her. I feel so good about myself. Or even when
but not when the relationship's over.
You know what I mean. Or even like when it's getting drunk or something like that, and you control yourself. You're like, no, I'm not drinking tonight. And every time we exercise self-control, we gain self-respect, and every time we gain self-respect, we gain self-esteem. So the man that doesn't give in to his impulses is the most free man in the world. Whereas the man that just, if I want it, I do it. Because a lot of this red pill kind of conversation is a strong man, as a high value man, does what he wants. No, the reality is a high value man who can resist temporary desires for long-term goals. Doesn't drink because he's got work tomorrow. Doesn't sleep with that girl because he doesn't want to get rid of her in the morning. He thinks about his long-term self. Self-control is true freedom, not doing whatever you want, because that's nonsense.
And that's a big thing, obviously, when it comes to getting in shape.
Absolutely.
That's why there's so many men that struggle to get in shape, not because they're not going to the gym, but just because they don't have that discipline outside of the gym. They're not eating the things they should be eating. They're going out, they're drinking, they're not sleeping.
Self-respect you have when you get a six-pack. Think of how much it's like, oh my God, how much self-esteem and self-respect you get in a six-pack. Now apply that mentality to women and money. If a man can do it for his mind, like if he can do it for money, which is his mind, body, which is women, and gym, imagine how much of a high value man he can. Self-control. And then what it does is it means that no one can drift him. He's got a clear goal. Self-control is the most amazing thing a high value man can have. So this idea that he has to sleep around with lots of girls and does what he wants, what he should want to do is be controlled by his own kind of long-term goals.
I agree. So I have a load of questions which I have put together based on just going through your Instagram. And this is just general questions on dating and relationships. So let's talk a little bit about initiating that first contact. So do you think is there a better way to approach a stranger? Is it easier to DM somebody, or is it better to approach them in person?
Depending on who the woman is, I think online there's a lot of competition if she's got an open profile. If she hasn't, then it's a bit easier. In person is always better because people can read your energy. And that is something that you can't always get online. So I think in person, and if you just remove the reason why men get nervous is they're thinking, is she going to reply? Is she going to say no? Forget about that. Just make it.
I think the nerves are much higher in person. DMing someone takes nothing.
Do you get nervous speaking to girls in person?
Not anymore. I used to though.
Did you? Why?
Because it was, I don't know, maybe it was just a fear of rejection.
But who cares if she rejects? There's a million
but
others.
I think what a lot of women don't understand is that it's not nice to be rejected because you are, let's say for example, you see someone you like or you're attracted to, you actually are building up quite a lot of this self-confidence and plucking up the courage to go over and speak to her.
Yeah.
And then for you to literally just get shot down, it is like, it's quite soul destroying.
If it really imagine. Is. As a girl, we don't have to experience that.
No, it's like, it's hardcore. And if, let's say, for example, maybe you do that 2 or 3 times, you get shot down 3 times, your confidence is going to be like rock bottom.
But does it sometimes make you immune to getting rejected?
But that's why I recommend guys just keep doing it again.
You get immune to it.
When you do it so often, you do become immune to it. So that's why you should do something that scares you every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. So you become immune to it. And you'll find that you'll get rejected by one girl and then another girl who's better looking than her will be responsive. So it's not really, the thing is men personalize rejection. So many times it's because she's having a fight with her boyfriend, she's had a bad day. It's got nothing to do with you a lot of the time. There's times where you're in a great mood and there's a guy you're not interested in and you'll still be responsive. You're like, hey, yeah, take my number because you're in a good mood. And there's other times you're in a terrible mood and it doesn't matter who he is. You don't want to speak to it. Don't personalize the rejection. It's not about you. Most of the time, it's not about you.
I think for me, I'm clearly at an advantage when it comes to the online approach. Stuff, because I can send a DM and it's like, okay, well, 1 million followers, blue tick, and like the pictures.
Yeah.
That can work in my favor, but it can also not work in my favor because the type of woman who I'm actually attracted to is not into guys like me on the surface.
Yeah.
So there's been a few times I've been with women when they've told me after we've been together for a while, they're like, when I initially saw your profile, I was like, no way. Like, hell no, I'm not getting involved with this guy. Because they assume the worst.
Yeah.
Like, realistically, you come across my profile for the first time. What do you think?
Oh, there'd be no way. I would be like, blocker.
What am I? Just like red flag?
Absolutely. You would just think like he's just going to cheat. He's just going to be with a bunch of women. And also the girl, I would think he won't like me. The girl would always just think, I'm not going to be enough. Like, he won't like me.
Well,
and that's what
a lot
I think
of
majority of
people,
girls would
they say to me, oh, you must get loads of DMs.
Yeah.
And it's not actually as many as you'd think. Because I think the women probably just look at my profile and just like, wait, no way. Yeah. And they don't want to be shot down or ignored.
Have you ever done like a public relationship where you and your partner like kind of make it all about on your Instagram and stuff?
Not Instagram, but YouTube.
And how did that work out?
Not well. That's why...
how do you find that? Like, how is it?
Well, so I did it during lockdown.
Okay.
So there wasn't really much to do.
Yeah.
And I was kind of not only running out of content, but people were starting to notice that I was with somebody else in my apartment. So I was like, do you know what? I'll just... Yeah. I was much more open at that point in time.
Right.
I generally feel like I'm quite open anyway. Yeah. But that was the first time I'd maybe the second time where I'd really talked about the relationship that I was in.
Right.
And she was in the videos, we were talking. And people were actually like really loving it. Like my views were actually going up because people liked seeing just me with a woman.
Yeah.
But the problem was, like, I've got thick skin, so I can take any shit which people give me. But she didn't necessarily. So YouTube comments are the absolute worst of all comments.
And the worst.
Because Instagram, like, your identity is linked to a comment. YouTube, it's anonymous. Right. It's like a weird username and no picture.
Yeah.
So people are a bit more ruthless.
Yeah.
So obviously there was a load of negative comments about her, maybe the way she looks, whatever it is. Like, even though she's a beautiful girl, people always have something bad to say.
Negative to say.
So I would just say to her, don't look at the comments.
Right.
Of course she looks at the comments. So that messes with her head. But I think the main sort of issue and problems came about when the relationship ended or came to an end. And I kind of foolishly was speaking my thoughts and sharing it with people. And I think the problem was people didn't get the full context of the situation.
Yeah.
And they were just getting like little snippets of it. And actually looking back, I didn't look very good. Right. Like, she looked like a victim and I looked like I was doing something really bad. But that wasn't the reality. Right. Because it was a point where I was leaving Dubai and I was going to Spain.
Right.
So I was saying how it's obviously going to be an issue, like the whole long distance relationship thing. But anyway, so I got a load of negative feedback, particularly from women. Right. Over the way that I handled that. Right. And I didn't present it properly. But then the worst part was, because I'd been so open, sharing with my entire community who she was, everybody knew about her. So the moment that she kind of stopped appearing in the videos, everyone was asking, where is she? What's happening? And then everybody would go to her and then ask her the same questions, like, where's Mike? What's happened with Mike? What's going on? And this was going on for months. Yeah. And even when I came back to Dubai, people started messaging us saying, you're going to get back with Mike. And this wasn't making it easier for her to kind of get over me. Yeah. And then when I was in Ibiza at the time, so people they were watching my stories or other people's stories. Yeah. Maybe I'd been there and other women had been around me. They would send that story to her. Yeah. And it's like, she doesn't need to be seeing that. We're not in a relationship anymore, but you're just...
And it must be hard for her when she moves on, like knowing that, who the person, like say she was to meet another man, he would be like, that's your ex. It must be a hard...
to be, because she wasn't massive on social media. Right. So she's known as Mike Thurston's ex. Yeah, of course. That's not
is
good.
What it is. Yeah, it's not.
Like, she needs to be her own identity, not, oh, that's Mike Thurston's ex.
Yeah. So you wouldn't recommend it? You wouldn't do it again?
No, only when I'm with the one, starting a family, inshallah. That's when I'll be very public about it. Okay. But for now, I've found that the more you keep it private, the less drama you have.
Yeah, you don't need to.
You have... With everybody, there's a certain percentage of their following who are absolute psychopaths. Yeah. The larger your following, the higher the number of psychopaths there are. So they are going to want to cause drama.
Always. Yeah. And they've got time. Yeah. You would be so surprised how much time these people have to find the information, send it to this person, write the comments. So it's better to just, keep it private.
But I mean, it's up to the individual, because sometimes it's nice to see relationship stuff, but you don't want to overdo it. Because if you overdo it, people are like, okay, great. Like,
but
we get it.
I think we forget people aren't always happy for everyone. And that's the problem with social media, because the people that spend the most time in it usually are the ones that aren't that happy. And so you can attract a lot of that hate.
So yeah, going back to the original point, like I generally would, if I'm approaching someone for the first time, I would prefer to do it in person.
Right.
And I don't mean doing it in a bar or a club, because you're not going to find the right woman there. You can barely have a proper conversation anyway. But it'd be in the daytime if I see somebody.
Is a gym a good place for you to meet people?
Yes, but I understand that women are there to, I mean, obviously some of them want attention, but some of them just want to go to the gym and work out.
Yeah.
And they are getting hit on a lot anyway by different guys. So I don't want to be the fifth guy that's gone up to him and be like, hey, you need to help me.
Yeah, but like, you might be the guy that she's hoping does do that.
So what I usually do is, if I do like, for someone who I like, I will wait until they've done the workout. Okay. And then I'll maybe try and catch them afterwards. That's perfect. But not like go stand there like a little weirdo in the changing room.
Asking her, is she using this? And don't do that. Just wait till she's finished, and then that's a gentleman way to do it. Yeah.
And you're more than likely going to have a much higher chance of like some sort of a decent relationship if you meet somebody in like day-to-day life and scenarios. Yeah. So if you're at the beach, like a nice chilled out beach club or the gym. Yeah.
Doing something that you both would be doing anyway, it's a good way to know if you've got some similarities.
So the next question is about dating and the first date. From my experience, a mistake which a lot of men make is they try go all out on the very first date.
Right.
And not only does that set the expectations quite high, but you end up potentially investing a lot of time and money in something which isn't really going to work out. So what I always recommend is, sometimes if I go on the first date, just go for a walk or go for a coffee. And then within the first 10, 15 minutes, you can see if you're going to vibe with someone or not.
Somebody like you can do that because she already knows what you bring to the table. But sometimes girls will be like, oh, he's not, I don't know. Like, say if she just met a random guy, she doesn't know what he is, and she's thinking he doesn't want to invest or do anything, depending on the type. But it does weed out that girl.
So you think that person should take them on a fancy date?
No, I think take them where you would be going anyway. So if your normal day-to-day life, you go for dinner and you go for Nando's, take her to Nando's. If your normal day-to-day life is going to Namos, take her to Namos. This is what I always say to men.
If you ask a girl, hey, do you want to go to Nando's? She's not going to like that, though.
Some girls, but if that's your day-to-day life and that's her day-to-day life, if that's not her day-to-day life, you've already cut the crap. You're not compatible. So what I always say to men is, women should come into your world. You be the man, she comes into your world. Now, your world doesn't have to be 5-star, but you take her, so even if it's a case of like you can't afford a lot, that's not the problem. But you take her to a coffee shop where you can afford 2 coffees. Or you take her to, if you're going for Nando's, you can cover the bill. I always just say, take women into your world. That's the leadership. You're coming into my world now. So do where I would normally go to eat. You're coming where I normally go to eat. Now, where I normally spend my day. Now, if you're going out of your way and you're doing something you wouldn't normally do, you're not compatible.